Peck's journey when I changed his name again. Last year, I changed his name again. In fact, I removed him entirely. Peck can have his journey. This other kid's gonna have his trucker journey. And this kid's name, this kid's gonna be way more isolated than Peck is. I had Peck go through a whole revelation. He turned into Cthulhu at some point. He had his team. He had his world. I was like, nah, I want to write another guy who's way more in the darkness. Not in darkness of character, in opacity. Remember about opacity? We talked about that in a few episodes ago. Where I don't give you the answers. You don't know. When I think of this other character, this transformation out of this character to a different one, the new character had a name. The name was Champ. Because everybody called him Champ. He doesn't even know who the heck he is. At least Peck knows his own name. Champ doesn't know his own name. He just knows that everybody from his most distant past would clap him on the shoulder, call him Champ. And then most recently, well, I had Champ do a thing. Well, I guess we can finish that generation really quick. Champ's journey through the chakras was very adversarial. He was put there by an organization. And the organization was one that had enemies. He was working for the good guys. Apparently, they called themselves the vaccine. This is pre-2020 time, so I guess that's poignant. So I guess it was more than a year ago, wasn't it? Jesus, I've been on this for a while. Anyway, Champ is he's harangued and hassled and given what for by goodness gosh darn everybody. It's like that Pussifer song. I got the world up my ass. Won't be the first time, won't be the last. And Champ is he's just a solid cat. When I think of his personality, I think of a more charismatic version of the Snake Bros. Shout out to Brothers of the Serpent and Randall Carlson and all those guys. The Snake Bros are a couple of bros, and they're cool people. They do everything. They seem to have their shit together. Like that, but they nerd out so hard. And that's the best, but they're not these dynamic salesman type outgoing. I guess they are outgoing. Hard to split hairs. Here's what I'll say. Go onto YouTube, look up the Snake Bros, and then think of them, but louder and laughing a lot more. That's Champ. All right. On that side? Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Whew. Okay. All right. Have a great day. Thank you. So, for the purposes of this character development, think of the Snake Bros, but think of them louder and funnier, and you got Champ. And Champ does his own business himself. Peck ended up being a weirdly communal figure. I really had him surrounded by a lot of people. I had a character arc that involved him really surrounding himself with people. Champ is different. Champ could take it or leave it. And that's a little bit of a difference, isn't it? Have a good day. Champ had he had like a mentor, a guy named Aces, who taught him the way of the gunslinger. He had there was a Squire Boy who was a part of their little cadre. Squire Boy ended up having a really cool ass undead wolf dog creature that I enjoyed. And then there was a pseudo antagonist, and there was an insurgent group that was gonna be fighting them. They were a different kind of a group. Anyway, in that generation, Champ, when Champ became Champ, the story became, it's not Champ's journey through Champ's chakras. Champ is in the employ of essentially a mercenary corps whose job it was to assemble people and put them into the hot zones of the world. And so Champ's mission was to get in with Aces, Champ and Aces and the Squire Boy and the Undead Dog. Them four. I was going to have another character too, but I wasn't sure. Like a defector type. Anywho, their job is to get in, do the thing, whatever it was, and then get out. And I had an idea that there was this little girl, and her psyche was like this potent Akira type anomaly, and she was like in a coma of some kind. And the worse it got, and the more her mangled, traumatized, subconscious child brain got, as it wandered through the nethers of the coma world, so her internal world coalesced on, impinged on, broke through to, and began affecting phenomena in the real world. And Peck and Aces and the Squire Boy, working for the vaccine, they inoculated themselves with the undead virus so that they would not be detectable easily, and they would have a chance in navigating the murky depths of this world, of this comatose girl, so they could get in, move around relatively freely, find the nexuses or the nexi of the mangled parts of the girl, to either open them and reveal the gates to others of the girl's chakras and internal subdivisions of her internal world, or destroy them. I had the idea that they were in there to destroy this human being and destroy this whole internal world, which was really sad and dark. I didn't like that so much either. And of course the bad guys, the other guys, were actually going to be the good guys. And then, Champ would have his chance to realize he was working for the wrong people. Maybe the girl can be saved. Something climactic battle at the apex of the 7th chakra, and wham bam, thank you, man, we got a story. The insurgent group that were the quote-unquote bad guys, I based them off of Operation Raccoon City from the Resident Evil series. I based them off of Beltway and Lupo, especially Lupo. Love her. And her machete-slinging fucking wolf pack fucking leading ways. And her awesome, face mask thing. You go, Lupo, you go. I got you. Anyway. I had this whole thing set up. And I wrote about it a bit, and that was fun. And again, I thought about telling it in story form. I thought about making it into a board game. I thought about thinking about it a lot. I talked a little bit about it. Not much. But I wrote about it recently again. And I changed the world because sometime in that last generation, with Champ and his journey to save the coma girl Akira chick, somewhere along the line I thought that Peck story previously had been missing some stuff that was better told in Champ's story. I liked Champ a lot better than I liked Peck. I liked his personality better. I liked the story better because it was a story and not just random thing. I liked that there were a lot of people because Peck's journey was supposed to be very solitary in the beginning. And then there was supposed to be a series of sequels when he came back to the world, having completed his journey, right? And the world's all messed up, but now, Peck's cool, so. Now, with Champ, it was more clean and simple and kind of contained. Get in, save the girl, get out. There was also something that didn't sit with me quite right I did want it to be Champ's journey through Champ's chakras. That part of the journey in the previous generations was awesome. When it was Peck's journey through Peck's chakras, I liked it. It was more personal, a little deeper, a little harder to write. By the way, I've never really written anything. Maybe a couple of things in school. And I journal, but anyway. So yeah, I was like, I want that back kind of. But then how do we end that story? Oh, you wake up and you're in the regular world, but you're somehow different. It just doesn't feel right. And then I thought, oh, there's a way of making this far darker in a way more natural sense. Because when I was considering staging a role-playing Dungeons and Dragons campaign based on these characters, or based on Peck and his cadre, I thought, man, so what? Peck goes through his journey. That's the first book. He's alone. He gains all these powers and insights. He gets pushed through the last gate, or pushes through the last gate, comes to himself and is a fully realized, awesome, cool, kick-ass dude whose only remaining problem is that he's got nobody left. And then slowly he starts to be a part of the world again, and to heal the world as he himself finds himself to be healing. Cool. Little open-ended for me, which would have been fine, but I did want to put like some kind of a sticker on it. It's like, how do you end that first book? I didn't want to end it with like Neo wakes up as the One and flies. You know, that was great for the Matrix. I didn't want Peck to go through that. It's too satisfying. I didn't want it to be satisfying. Or I wanted a different form of satisfaction, I guess, was the thing. So that was a part of it. But Champ's journey is a little different. Champ's journey is twofold, and I really liked that. There's a two-pronged approach to Champ's journey, and ever since a little bit more than a year ago, I've been thinking about it more in this term, where I wanted to include this other aspect. There's a double arc happening here. Because there was some ego involved in Peck's journey. There was a little bit of hero worship in Peck's journey. I don't like brazen heroes too much. I like complicated heroes. That seems to be the kind that you get in life. And they're the kind that I like the idea of meeting them because they're actually people. Peck didn't strike me as a person after a while. Which was fine if I was playing a board game, not caring, but as a writer, not that I'm a writer again, but his character was just too square, too even, too nice. Champ, you don't get to know where Champ is inside all the time. So I decided in the last generation that Champ's journey is going to be up through the chakras, and then it's going to be down the chakras. Yeah. Back into human world, you know? Back into human consciousness. You rise and you fall. That's the important part of being a person. We rise and we fall. Aubrey Marcus came up with it in different words recently on a podcast. I forget who he was interviewing. He was interviewing his core, I think his core associates that are in his daily life, his core friends and core family group, minus his wife, Vilana. It was Aubrey, it was an ex-MMA fighter, badass dude. It was what I think is Aubrey's oldest best friend. And then it was like another one of Aubrey's really old friends, I think. And so they were talking archetypes and stuff. But anyway, if that points you to that episode, good for you. No. It was just Aubrey and his old best friend, the Jewish balding guy. I'm sorry, bro. I don't remember your name. Damn, we're almost home. The idea was you climb to the zenith of your human life in your 30s or your 40s. You know, you really have your shit together. There's like an apex when all things ideal, which is not how it works out, but all things ideal, your body is at its strongest in your 20s and your 30s. And your mind is getting stronger the entire time too, and your heart's getting bigger the entire time too. At a certain point, your mental development start eclipsing what your body is capable of. And so the journey is, as you're getting digested by time and you're aging into death, as you do, as we all do. I don't know if anybody told you. One way of looking at that journey is you're born dependent. You're taking the milk, you're taking the lunch, you're taking the school education. Then you're able to support yourself. Then you have kids, and then or whatever, you have a community that you serve. And it grows, and you grow along with it, but your body deteriorates. One injury, one broken synapse at a time, till finally you have like multi-organ system failure that cannot be contended with by science, and you die. But that second arc, the descent into death, that's what was missing from Peck's journey. So with Champ, and I'll just end on this point, clearly there's more to talk about, but I'll end on this point. Champ's journey, I call him Chump now because he's Chump in Arc 1, Champ in Arc 2, if you follow me. Anyway, Champ rides through the chakras, and he's going up at first, starting from the root chakra. You think the story ends at page 200 or whatever. You're like, there's a lot of book left. What's going on here? Little do you know, the second half of the book is the story of Champ giving it all back. It's kind of a beautiful thing. It's the story of Champ passing back through the gates to become a human being again, down the chakras. But as he does, he was running away in the beginning. Now he's running toward himself in his life. And now, instead of powers and gear and stuff as he was collecting while he was riding up the chakras, instead of that now, in giving the gear away and giving the powers away one piece at a time, what he gains is himself back. But he also gains the idea of giving and the idea of being selfless and the idea of you're not just accumulating all this stuff, you're not hoarding all this stuff. It's there to be commerced. It's there to be given as well. And the more he gives, the weaker he becomes as the second arc progresses. But alternative to that, as a supplement to that, what happens is everything that he gives up comes back to him in a different way. And I had an idea, and I'll just end here. And the idea was there was a personification of these gates. The first couple of chakras are kids. The second chakras are supposed to be like hunters and maidens and that kind of thing. And then the final chakras are the crone and the sage and eventually just the light, right? And he can't find them in the first arc when he's coming up. He finds all this good stuff and he destroys all these zombies and he feels great about himself. But then the second arc, as he begins voluntarily giving things up in order to sheath back through the gate as a more complete self, all these beings that he was chasing but always eluded him in the beginning, they come back and they integrate with him. They become like a party, like a war party, or like a traveling party, or they're just there in singular moments of great need. And then when he comes back to himself at the end of the story, which I'm not sure how I want to end it, I think he's just waking up in an urban setting somewhere, having passed out in the street or something. I don't know exactly what I want to do with him. But the idea being that all these different selves are just influences that were on him of people that he knew growing up, or kind of in the Alice in Wonderland way, them but not quite them, you know. But the idea being that he recognizes that he's lost these things or disintegrated these things on the way up more and more, gets to the apex as powerful as he can be, but also as not human, as disconnected, or as much realization as he had of being as disconnected as he was. So very lost. And then, boom, you give something up. You give away your power of flight, or you give away your best weapon or something in order to pass the gate. And he's relentlessly pursued as he's going up and down the chakras. But on the way back down, instead of relying on his powers, he ends up being spared or saved by the grace of these parts of himself that are also these personified, chakras that avail him in his time of great need. And yeah, and it's all just a metaphor for him integrating them back into himself. So when he comes to, he really comes to. Peck never really had the coming to. He didn't have that well-rounded flush of character. You don't get to see every side of a person when they're doing really well. And the problem with Peck is that he started off doing really not well, but he ended up doing really, really well, better and better. But for Champ, his weakest, most vulnerable self is also his most human self, and also there's a power in vulnerability. There's a power in self that's integrity. Self that's integrated, right? Can't spell integrated without great. Anyway, that's Champ's journey. And I was writing about it, and I thought it was really cool, so I thought I'd run it by you guys. Yeah. So I guess I did it. I guess I actually put it out there and published that material. That's kind of cool. Didn't expect I was going to talk about it in a podcast. Thought I might write that story out. Maybe I will. One way or the other, we're at the end of the run. I've been doing sitcast for like 10 fucking minutes now. And it is time to end. So let's close out together. Take a couple of breaths. Cross the legs. Ooh. Okay. Bring it up to my eyes. There we go. And 3 breaths starting in 1, 2, 3, go.